Put on a Ike mini flip.
It's a little out of that. Good one on a frog.
Oh my gosh, how big his mouth is. To be a 4-pounder, if that thing had a gut, that's like a 5 or a 6.
All right, everybody. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to One Objective tonight, guys. We've got a good show lined up for y'all. We got Bob here. We got Chris with us tonight. I do know that we said that we were going to do these shows on Thursdays, but it was just working with Lance and working with Bob and just everybody's schedule. It just wasn't working out that way. So here we are. It's Sunday, and to be honest with you, I think it worked out better to do it today. It's been crazy. It's been a crazy week, and it worked out a whole lot better for this. Me and Chris, we ended up just coming off having a tournament at Leesville Lake this weekend for the Castaways Tournament Trail. And Chris, sum it up in one word. I know I'm putting you on a spot here of how the tournament went.
Sucked.
Absolutely. That guy's on it, man. Man, it was tough, super tough. I mean, you got Steve Christ and them that won it with like 20 pounds, and you're like, what the freak, man? And then like second, I think was like 14, and then it started falling off from there. But we ended up catching.
What do we have?
I don't even know. They don't place the results for the losers. But
what did you have? Because I didn't catch anything.
Hey man, look, you did. You called them in the net. You did a good job.
Yeah. I didn't catch them on the hook though.
Which isn't as fun as netting. I mean, the hooking with the pole was a lot funner than the netting. I get that. But in a team tournament, man, I don't care who catches them, honestly. It does suck, though, when you're kind of getting beat. But it's still fun, though, to be catching them. But, yeah, it was – but, it was, what, 30-mile-an-hour winds? And it was
cold.
Man. I can't catch a limit this year. I don't know what's going on. I just can't do it. It's just not in me, I guess. But anyways, guys, before we get in, we're going to be talking to Bob here. So we got him in the bottom. Bob, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I'm glad we made everything work out so we can all get everybody on here. Hopefully Lance will join us here in a little while, huh?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I sure hope he does join.
But yeah, I mean, we always have good conversations, when we're working at the shop or when you come up and visit us or we meet down at ICAST or stay in a house together for a tournament. We always have a good time. It's always fun. And it's just to have you and Lance on the team and both of y'all do well in this tournament, man, it just meant a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not so much worried about just the business side, like, the promoting One Objective, but just you guys, because you guys have worked so hard to get to that point. And we're going to go over that here in just a little bit. But it was really cool to see both of you guys up there and people that I know, people I'm friends with to succeed well. So, but before we get to that, let's thank some sponsors of the show real quick. I want to thank Waterland Sunglasses. Guys, make sure you go check them out. We'll have a link here in the description below after the show. I normally try to put them in, especially on YouTube channel. You can go in and check it out, and also have it on our podcast. You can go down the bottom and check it out. It's a link to Waterland Sunglasses. Save yourself 15%. They got all kinds of different pairs of sunglasses, bed fishers, which are a bigger pair of glasses that are great for just really enclosing your face is what I like to say, for helping with bed fishing and keeping all that light out of your eyes. And but they got different lenses for different conditions, all the way up to clear. So if you're running nighttime or early mornings, all that stuff. So they got some really great pair of sunglasses for big heads, little heads, doesn't matter. They got you all covered there. So also want to thank Missile Baits. All you guys know that the Baby Destroyer is my favorite, me and James' favorite go-to bait when it comes to bed fishing. And that's where we're at right now. But they also have, you check it out, they got the D-bombs in white. So make sure you go check them out. Heartwheel last year, that was the only thing I could get them to hit. I could not get them to hit anything else that was on the bed. They wanted that white. So, but you can get those in bulk packs. So we got those on the website as well. You can go check those out, oneobjectivebf.com. And also I want to thank our last sponsor, Amped Outdoors. Phenomenal batteries. We've had a lot of success with them. Guys love them. It's been a great company to work with. And we got them, run them in our bass boats. We run them in our kayaks. We run them in different draft setups, all that. So we also sell those on our website. Customer service is phenomenal. Love working with the guys, and you can also reach out to them if you're concerned about if this will run that or how many hours this will run and this and that. They're very knowledgeable when it comes to that. So make sure you go check them out. So, all right, well, let's see. Let me check the comments out, man. I know Chris is normally on it, but I was just wanting to. I can't for some reason, Chris. I can't pull that up. I don't know why. Are we getting any on there?
I want to see no comments.
We haven't got any yet.
Okay, I normally have
They
to.
want to stare at my ugly face.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. They're scared of you, Bob. But no. But anyways, guys, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. We got Bob Briskie on with us right now. We're hoping to get Lance Burris in here in just a little bit. He ended up finishing 5th. Bob was 10th. If Bob could have done, and I'm not trying to rub salt in the wound here, I'm just saying, if you would have had a day like you did on day 2.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I'm not saying you would have won it, but I think you would have had you had a good finish, but I think it would have been just crazy. You know what I mean? So,
man, if I'd have had 3 hours at the end of the tournament, like the first 30 minutes or first hour I had, yeah, it would be a different conversation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both days, the bite was really good for me both days real early. But at the back half of the second day, I just made a decision, and I know we'll get into it, but I just made a decision to burn it down. And all the big fish were welded to the bottom, and they wouldn't touch a jerkbait. And when I drug a swing head, I couldn't get anything to cull. I caught fish, but I couldn't get anything big. And guy right next to me from Oklahoma fishing with a Ned rig killed him both days with an afternoon bite. And, he wound up having a little over 90 inches in the same pocket I was in. And I just, Monday morning quarterback, but if I'd have got, one more 18, that would have made a huge difference.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how it goes. It's always those, like you say, Monday morning quarterback, you get back and you're like, man, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. But even then, I always say you get on the water, sometimes it still feels like, say you got a tournament that's very similar coming up. I still feel like as fishermen, we're kind of hard-headed. We don't make those changes. You know what I mean? Like we know what we want to throw. We know what we've been catching them on. We got confidence in, and sometimes it is tough to make those changes on the water at the fly.
Yeah.
Like Daniel should have thrown that. But,
they were chewing. I love throwing a jerkbait. That's no secret, especially in clear water when it's cold. And they hit it like they hated it. It was like being up in Pennsylvania on the Susky. They could not stay away from it, and it was fun. But after lunch, after probably about 11:30 both days, it was slow.
Yeah.
And you could see him on live scope, and man, we could talk all day till the cows come home about 5 days with live scope, thanks to you and James. But I could see the fish. You just look at the bottom, and every now and then you'd see him dart up. I'm like, okay, so start throwing the shaky head and catch fish. Start throwing the swing head, catch fish. But none of them were big.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I know there's a lot of, and you and Chris have done quite a few shows on forward facing sonar, but man, as a guy that is just starting out with it, it really is an interesting tool. It's not something that I think I'll ever get wedded to, but just to see where your lure is running in the water and see how the fish react to it. Or just to give you that extra little bit of confidence. Hey, yeah, there are fish there, but they're all on the bottom. And they're relating to this kind of structure, and then going back to your map to figure out on Navionics, what other spot on the lake looks like this? If I burn my spot down, where else can I go?
Yeah. So. Yeah. And, trying to save fish on day one. I mean, did you feel on day one, did you kind of lay off of them a little bit, or no. Did you just couldn't get?
No, not at all. In fact, I would say that, I had a good pre-fish every day. I stayed with another guy from Florida. He's on the Old Town Pro team, Alan Sweat, good dude. And Josh Deal and I, Josh wasn't in the house with us, but between the three of us, we kind of try to help each other break down water a little bit. It wasn't really a big secret that mid-lake was where everybody should be. But Alan and Josh were kind of struggling a little bit. I'm like, man, they're killing the jerkbait. And everywhere I went, I caught fish on a jerkbait. But, I was probably in the 72, 73 to 78 range. I didn't expect to catch 169.5 inches, but I thought I'd have a decent tournament, top 20% kind of thing. And really, I mean, just as well as I do, driving from Florida to Oklahoma or Virginia to Oklahoma, that's all you want. I want to go and catch fish. I think I told you and James when I was in the shop, pardon my French, shoot, if I catch, 140, 150 inches of fish in 2 days and I finished dead last, I'd be okay with that because I caught fish.
Yeah.
I figured something out on a lake I ain't never been to. So I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's hold on a second.
Right to the cuffing.
I think Lance thought we were, I don't think you understood it was Eastern time. But yeah, hopefully we'll have him here in just a little bit. But yeah, no, I mean, it is tough. And like you say, I mean, you caught a lot of fish. You had a good time. But like say, trying to manage fish too, but you really wouldn't even put in that position. You were still trying to upgrade.
Right.
Went into that, So, I
mean,
mean,
that's what made the second day so weird, right? I caught fish the first day, but I mean, it took a while to get to 79 inches. Not that that's some big feat, but when I was catching fish from, lines in till noon, I think the last fish I posted was a smallmouth, 14.5 inches or something like that. I got on an island on Main Lake. I wasn't even back in a pocket, just running around jerkbait fishing. Man, how do I get these things to stop?
Are you getting messages on there?
Yeah.
You
Everyone's texting me. I don't know if it's coming across with y'all.
Yeah, I can hear it.
I'm sorry. How do I do that? Do not disturb. How about we do that? Do not disturb. See if this fruit company thing is worth its salt. Anyways, I fished that same pocket both days, but the first day, I stayed in there for a while, and I just felt like I saw fish on the bottom, and I drug a JDM craw on a Picasso swing head and a Picasso quarter round shaky head on a spinning rod. The craw I threw on a bait caster, but I couldn't get anything big, just 12, 13 inches. So I left and went out Main Lake around islands. There were a lot more bass boats out there on Wednesday, and it wasn't terribly windy. So I kind of went junk fishing on points with the jerkbait to see if I could upgrade. And, I got rid of like a 12 or 13 with a 14.5 or something smallmouth. But Sunday, it seemed like a Saturday, Sunday, but Thursday, the second day of the tournament, I caught bigger fish right away. I mean, it was warmer overnight, and I knew that. And you could tell fish were starting to come in. And the stuff I was fishing I tried to focus on points close to shallow water or closer to clear water that was, in the 7 to 12 foot range that I thought fish could spawn in if they wanted to, with, isolated rocks or a little bit of timber and stuff in. And it wasn't a no-brainer, it was kind of a no-brainer that pocket wound up being what it was. Like I said, that guy I fished with, he's from Oklahoma, and he's like, yeah, this is kind of a honey hole. Ironically, he and I were the only two guys that fished it both days. Everyone stayed away from it, and I couldn't believe it. There were some guys on Thursday that came by when the media boat showed up. Guys were starting to get a little bit closer, but for the most part, we weren't fighting for anything. He and I shared water. We were fishing different patterns, so it worked out real well.
Well, that's good. Yeah, because most time in those tournaments like that, man, it's really hard to find a spot that no one's going to hit. You know what I mean? That's really tough to find. And, I know you're talking about fishing shallow water, but, what was the deepest fish that you caught? What was the deepest you caught one out of?
Probably 19, 23 feet, somewhere in that. I was fishing it's a pocket with a point and a ledge. So it was deep water, but there was a ledge in about 12 or 13 foot of water with a tree on it that had fallen over that, again, thanks to forward facing sonar, I got a real good understanding of and how they were related to it. And I just kind of welded myself to that, to get a limit on the first day, because that's the first objective, and then see what I could do from there at the fish around it. And on the second day, That's exactly. I mean, I started in the same place both days, but the second day, man, it was lights out. I think I had 86 inches in the first 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it took a while. Like I said, it took just about most of the day to do the 80 inches on Wednesday.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to watch it going down, especially on the second day. Like, I'm like, man, this dude, it's always that thought in your mind too with sandbaggers, because it happens like all the time.
Oh man, I know.
They wait till it's cut off and let me throw them on up there. You know what I mean? So
they just start. I was talking with Steve Owens on the phone because my wrist was hurting really bad, and I probably went like 60 minutes without a call, and I was kind of down on my luck a little bit. I'm like, Steve, the tournament needs to end now. He goes, "No, man, I can't do that for you." I'm like, "All right, well, thanks for the life coaching," and he laughed and hung up. But you start, you're looking at the leaderboard after my last call. I'm like, man, I'm still in the top 5, maybe, and if I find one more, maybe I get one of them blue trophies. That would be so cool. I mean, just to be on the stage was amazing. I'll be honest with you. I did not expect that, but you're exactly right. On Thursday, it started creeping into my head, like on our team chat when, you and James and Jason and Craig are throwing, screenshots like, hey, Bob's still, Lance is in first, Bob's in second. I'm like, oh my God, man, 2 more fish and I may stay here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't put that together, but I mean, just to walk across that stage is holy crap. That's a dream come true.
Absolutely. And, we were talking before you left. You were at the shop, and we were talking about how you've never been to a Bassmasters Classic. You really wanted your dad to be there, but
yeah,
you never been, and to be at your first one and being able to. Well, I know it ain't the Bassmaster Classic in the big bass boat, but to us, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's in the kayaking side, that's the same thing.
Man, it's our classic, right? But yeah. I mean, it was so cool. You're backstage and Mercer's back there, and all the other folks from Bassmaster or BASS, and you see Kevin Van Dam walk by, and you're like, oh my God. I mean, like I could have shook his hand, but you try not to be all starstruck. But that's the one thing I'll say I wished I'd have done differently. I tried to play, act like you've been here before. Man, screw that.
Yeah.
Soak it in. I should have. I mean, I told you, when I walked off the stage, I walked past Mercer again, and he shook my hand. He's like, congrats, buddy. I walked down the stairs, and there's KVD talking to some media woman from BASS, and I walked by him, and I turned around and I looked at him, and he was in conversation. I wanted him to sign the back of that cardboard check right there. I didn't ask. I should have. That would have been so cool.
Oh yeah, they'll do it, man. It's
man, I know he would have. I just didn't have the nuts to do it.
Yeah, well, it is. It's overwhelming, and I know I've never. So we fished the championship, but I've never had the opportunity to go on stage whatsoever. I sucked at Chickamauga, as I usually do at that lake. But doing media, like we're.
Heck yeah.
Talk to so many of them, and at first it's really intimidating. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've grown up watching these guys,
idolizing these guys.
Yeah, there's my hero, and then you find out, man, they're just like everybody else. And I mean, some of them, don't get me wrong, some of them you try to interview, especially if you had a bad day, emotions are high, and like they don't want to talk to nobody. You know what I mean? So they're about ready to have to answer the same 500 questions that everybody else is going to ask. So. But no, like you said, you just soaking it in, man. I'm happy for you, but I'm jealous at the same time. I don't like to be jealous of nobody, you know what I mean? But like for you, like this is a good jealousy. Like you've got to do something that we've wanted to do so bad in our life, and we're living vicariously through you. You know what I mean? Like it's just
that boat. It's that boat, buddy. That's that. There's some magic on that boat.
Yeah,
we can talk about that boat. We should have done this in the garage, so I could have just sat next to the boat.
Yeah. There's Craig. Look at this superstar.
False. False. But thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was a fun build, man. That was a really fun build to do, and it was kind of one of those endurance builds. It was like,
you ain't lying.
This is what we need, and we got to do it, like this quick,
Yeah,
So
we've got, like 30 hours, 25, 28 hours to get it done. I couldn't believe, you're like, hey man, go to the hotel. And I felt bad that I slept in that second day. You're like, hey man, go get an SD card at Walmart. I'm like, okay. Figure I'll be out of here like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I walked in there, that dang thing was done, and man, she looked pretty.
Yeah, we're shooting a video. So you showed up, was it Wednesday?
Yeah. Well, no.
Thursday.
Was it? No, couldn't have been. It was Monday or Tuesday?
It might.
It was on a. No, wait a minute.
I think it was Wednesday because you had a business meeting.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was Wednesday and Thursday. You're right. Wednesday and Thursday. I left on Thursday like lunchtime.
Yeah.
And, started heading west.
Yeah.
I left my house Tuesday night, and you're like, you guys, you're like, man, call me. I'm like, I ain't gonna call you. 2 o'clock in the morning, me asking you to help me stay awake.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun build. It was a tiresome build, like at the end, and then for Kevin Gunn to come through and
oh man, that was so cool.
Quick, man, it's just crazy how it all worked out. It was
like my favorite part though is when Mark Cisneros. I mean, it's the green in the comments, right? When Mark Cisneros took them pictures of the boat in that pocket with that blue, that green popped on the water. It's so cool.
Yeah,
my screensaver on my work computer and on my personal laptop now. The One Objective logo looks really good.
It did
on that gray boat.
On that gray boat, like it just looked really.
Yeah,
it just popped, and I was like, because we got like that. I don't know what you call that color. It's like a yellowish with black in it or whatever.
Yeah,
and it looks good, but I was like, man, I think when I first seen that boat, I was like, man, that's kind of plain looking. I liked it, but it was kind of plain. You know what I mean?
Battleship gray, kind of. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But man, started putting everything on it and got the stickers on and all. I was like, man, this thing looks good. It's sexy looking. I like it.
Heck yeah, it does. Looks
but
like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I got some people fooled. Oh man.
Well, hey, Chris, I think we got Lance in. Hey, Lance, what's going on, man?
There he is.
Hey, sorry about that. I got my Easter time and Central time mixed up.
All right. I was telling him, I said, well, Chris, I said, because I make sure I put that in there because I know Bob's on Eastern time, but I was like, man, I hope he did realize it was Eastern time. So I was like, that's why I sent you a message again real quick while we was on here. But hope we didn't interrupt nothing. I hope you wouldn't sit down eating dinner or nothing like that right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I just kicked everyone out of the birthday party.
Oh, man.
Sorry about that, man.
Right, they were headed out anyways.
I got you. Well, we've been talking to Bob about his tournament. Let's kind of dig into yours. You ended up finishing 5th. Had a phenomenal event. What is this, your third one? Is this your third one you fished? Or second one? I can't remember because I can't remember how many years I've been now.
This is the third one I fished. They've done it for 4 years, and I didn't get to fish last year, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So I fished the first 2.
Yeah. And I mean, you had a really good finish. You had a good solid bag, and it was cool to watch. I was saying, on day 2, it was Bob Briskie and you at the very top, like watching the total numbers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like
till Guillermo and Drew showed up.
Yeah, so Drew and all of them come in and wreck the whole party. But yeah, it was pretty cool just to see both you guys up there doing well. And from what I understand, y'all launched from the same ramp, didn't y'all?
Both days.
Yeah, we could see each other.
Yeah. That's crazy. And I was talking to Bob earlier, and he was just saying he didn't really have much pressure on his fish. Did you have much? I mean, there was a lot of people hitting your same area, or?
Well, I had a lot of bass boats trying to come in. They
definitely
coming down the channel, and they get to about where I was, and I talked to them, and they kind of divert off one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, that's good that they were able. They kind of work with you on that. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you get some, and I'm a bass boat guy too. And I try every time I see a kayaker on a lake, I try to give him a lot of room because I know what it's like. Like even sitting down on plane or any of that stuff. I know what it's like to have been waked or whatever. So I normally try to be pretty decent with it. But you do have some. I've been out there in my kayak before, and I've been cut off, and it's just how it goes. That's part of the game we play sometimes. But it's good that they give you the room there. Talking about day one, though, did you have to manage your fish much, or was it one of the things you just kind of hammered them? And
Well, I didn't really know what was there completely. I got there one afternoon about 2 days before. So I think it was on a Thursday when I was bouncing around and just had more bites than anywhere else, but I wasn't really sure kind of what all was there. So I figured I kind of knew I needed to just stay whatever I could close to the leader. And I mean, it was kind of getting me there. I was hoping for as many fish as I was catching that there'd be something big there, and never did come up with a bigger one, but caught a lot that I don't think it burned it up for the second day.
yeah, did you have to make much changes from day one to day two, lure wise, and they moved up some or not?
So I did have to make a little adjustment because we went from wind to just no wind at all. And so those fish kind of sank down. So I had to take my weight my jerkbait, the front hook, a little bit. So it actually was be a slow sink and almost get it to the bottom and yank it off the bottom. And they're eating it there, but it just took a lot longer to get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, did they seem a little more aggressive though on, cause it seemed like the numbers were creeping up there a little bit more on the last day than it was on the first day. I mean, did they seem a little more aggressive, or was it still, they were still,
for me.
What's that?
The first day was a lot more aggressive. I was catching fish on top water and in 52-degree water.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second day, I mean, it was a lot slower. Just, you could see them busting, but when you threw in there, they weren't just eating it. I mean, I think I may have caught one on top water the second day, but you could tell things were a little bit different. And I think the wind and weather just had an effect of that.
That's pretty cool because on y'all's tournament, and then you watch a Bassmaster Classic, guys like Greg Hackney and all of them, some of them guys were catching some of their fish on top water, and it just seems like you didn't really hear much about that in the years, like think about reading Bassmasters magazine. It always seemed like when the fish moved up on the beds, that's when guys start throwing top waters to kind of find them, in that 60s to 70-degree water. Now you're finding more guys throwing top buzz baits and all that stuff in 50-some degree water. I mean, is this something that you think people's been doing for years, or is this something we're just starting to figure out? Like they'll hit in 50-degree water in the spring. I mean, in the fall, a buzz bait is insane in 50s. But you just really, for me, I've never heard people throwing it at early in the spring.
Yeah, normally, I mean, you're going to be at least in the 60s, at least around here, before we get any kind of topwater bite, and typically upper 60s. And so I didn't have any topwater with me. Besides, I had a rod that still had a little plopper tied on from last fall, and I just had it with me. And I was like, no way, this white bass. I mean, they looked different, so I tossed out there and I just started smoking it. And I just did that as fast as I could until they just kind of quit. As soon as the sun popped up, they were gone. They sank down and still eating, but they just weren't busting top.
Yeah, that's just crazy. It's just, I don't know why. Maybe guys that been winning tournaments for years doing that stuff, just keeping their mouth shut, and I don't know. Certain lakes are different too. Some lakes just do better at top water and early bites and all that stuff. Oh man, did we lose Lance?
Uh-oh.
I think we lost it for a second. Oh, there he's back there. All right, we got you. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know.
Technology, you gotta love it. But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Just how that went down. So going into your day two, I mean, you were catching them good, or it was tougher bite, but you were still catching them. You were up there. You and Bob both were up there. I mean, what's going through your mind? Like, do you think you're like, man, I got this, or do you still have that thought like they're sandbagging and I'm going to lose this thing at the end?
Well, I kind of figured there'd be some sandbagging. You usually hear that on day two whenever they're going to shut the board off. And I mean, I've seen it in the past, just a couple championships, people doing that. But I knew I needed a big bite, and that's what I was just I left that point to go look for it, because as many fish I was catching, it was kind of capped out at 17 inches. So I had to move somewhere because I could tell the bigger ones weren't quite there, with the bite being slower too. So I ran probably a mile down the lake, just trying to find something that maybe had a bigger fish moved up, because I feared that warm front that maybe the bigger ones had moved somewhere. And
man. Yeah.
Then back to Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened on the second day. I mean, most of the fish I was catching on the first day were between 14 and 16 inches. I mean, I think I had like one every quarter inch, so it was hard to call. And the second day, I caught more bigger fish than I saw anywhere aside from that. When I was telling you that one fish I caught, or the two fish I caught down by the dam, the 21 and the 18, but there wasn't enough down there to sustain a 2-day pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you guys this question real quick, because this is something I've always struggled with. And, it always seems like, let's say, for instance, you got a tournament and you're catching 2-pounders. You're catching, the 16, 17-inch fish. And no matter where you go, what is it that is different about the big bass, that 4s, 5s, and 6s, that are so much different than what the 2s and 3s are doing? You know what I mean? It always seems like you can find those 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think they're holding on the same stuff? It's just the area you're in. You know what I mean? Like,
I think what Mark said. That's exactly what happened to me. The big fish I caught, I'd see him busting, and I'd throw a jerk bait past it and run it back through it as quick as I could. And all of the big fish I caught on that second day came. I mean, you could see fish like completely breaching out of the water, and smallmouth and largemouth. And the big fish I caught were all like that. It wasn't like I just ran into one. It was always like that. Last year on Gunnersville, that second day I had on Gunnersville, every time fish were busting, I was a cast away with the chatterbait, and I couldn't reel it fast enough. They would hammer it. So
it's just crazy how the big ones are always doing something different. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Well, they were eating all day. They never. Yeah. I mean, at least the big fish on day 2 that I caught, and they were. It seemed like they ate all day. They were chasing shad all day.
Yeah. If for me, if I do run into one, it's like oh man, let me see if I can duplicate that, and I can't ever get that going, or I either find it too late. You know what I mean? But it always does. It just seems like it's, night tournaments the same way. We fish a lot of those around here, and you can go around and you catch some 3s and 4s on a walking bait on riprap when the shad spawn's going on, and every once in a while you can grab a big one out, but then you see guys come in with a couple 5s and 6s, and you're like, what were you doing? Like, are you throwing a worm to catch those big ones? Or are you doing the same thing I'm doing? Or it just always is weird. It's just, I don't know. I've always wondered what it took to get to that, you get to that 10 or 11 pound range.
Good question. Lance, I know you had plenty of bait up by where you were, but if you had bait around and the fish weren't doing nothing with the bait, were you getting bit? Or you had to kind of make the bait ball blow up a little bit to get the fish out?
I feel like they were always chasing them, and even if they weren't on top, because the bait was just constantly moving.
Yeah.
And I mean, if it weren't on top, I was getting bit by something underneath, and I could let it rest for about 5 minutes, and there's this one spot that it had a little quick drop to it, and I'd come back there and I'd always catch at least one more fish off of it, and just hoping it was something else. But the bait was like continuing just kind of moving around that one little pocket, like it wasn't going very far. I don't know if they just had it corralled or what, but at one point I saw birds basically diving down after it, and I knew bait was here. And that's when everything just started blowing up in the morning.
Yeah, there was one further in the pocket on the ledge. And I did have one bass boat come in there on the first day, and there was just this enormous ball of bait, and you could see fish underneath them, but I couldn't get those fish to bite at all. Mm-hmm. They weren't on the point. They were just kind of sitting around a piece of cover that was submerged, and the bait was above them, but I couldn't get them to bite a jerk bait, a shaky head, or that JDM crawl.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're both. I know Bob was. Lance, were you using live scope as well, or?
No, I actually took it off, put it on my bass boat, do some crappie fishing. I'd like to get another one, put it back on there. I was trying to make it where I could transfer back and forth, but the way I got it hooked up, it's not coming back off.
Yeah.
Come on, Garmin. I said, come on, Garmin.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I yanked the one off my Hobie because I had live scope and I wanted to run perspective too. So, and I didn't want to change the transducer around and all that. So I'm running perspective and then the regular forward facing. So now I'm like, man, I really want to get another one back on my kayak because, I mean, I like fishing with it. This weekend, me and Chris had a terminal Leesville, and we didn't do well, but we caught some fish. But I just really enjoy watching fish interact with the bait and, just seeing them, for instance, like you see them on there and you shut something or you drop something in the boat. Even those fish that are out there 70, 80 feet, you know what I mean? How they react sometimes. It spooks them, like we talk about being quiet in the boat, and my dad always talked about it, and I'm always like, whatever. I still catch fish. You know what I mean? Like, Dad, you drop a pair of pliers in the boat, Dad's like, be quiet. You're scaring the fish. But I mean, honestly, I can see it. You know what I mean? Like you can see, like you shut something hard enough, especially if a bait fish spook, and they scatter, then you watch your fish scatter. I just think I know it's a lot of controversy around it. I don't like getting into it because I like doing it. So I'm not going to listen to the controversy with it too much, but it is a really cool tool just to see how the fish interact, how the fish are holding. I mean, it's crazy where you can go times and see a pocket full of bait fish, and then about noon or so, you don't see nothing. It's like everything kind of holds down to the bottom, and they're not suspending, they're not doing nothing, and then every once in a while you'll get in another pocket and you see them pull up. It's just a really cool tool just to see how everything you thought you knew about fishing is changing.
Yeah.
The fish are just out there roaming around, man. Like me and Chris had one yesterday. It was 2 or 3 of them up there. It was roaming around like 3 foot of water out there in 50 foot, and I'm like, what are these dudes doing? Might've been carp. I don't know, but it's just random spots. They're just roaming around, but getting back to the tournament, Bob talked earlier how he was kind of starstruck coming off the stage and seeing KVD and all them guys there. I mean, how was it for you, Lance? I mean, was it kind of overwhelming to do this, or what was your feelings when you came off that stage?
I mean, I did do it once before, so I kind of knew what to expect.
Yeah.
And the last time I was a little bit farther away, so I had a little more time, and I was kind of taking more of it in. And this second time, I had to, as soon as I was off the stage, I basically walked out, went to the truck, and had to head back home. So I was headed out, so I didn't get to take much in after that.
Yeah. I really wish you guys would have had the chance, because they do it with all the pros on the media, on the media room. Like when it don't matter if they zeroed or not. They walk backstage, they go to the media room, they eat, and then they head on out and go wherever. And I really wish y'all had that opportunity, because I think it'd been cool for you guys to get interviewed by other media platforms. It's so many more media platforms out there that go there to that event. I mean, it's a huge media room.
It would have been neat.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't, and I'm not knocking Bass or none of them for it, but I think it's a great opportunity that it would have given more exposure to other, to other anglers out there besides the top 3 guys,
I'll tell you, Josh, I mean, part of the reason I'm nervous for 2 reasons. One is like, hey, stupid, soak this in because it may never happen again. And then the other part of it, Lance hit on, right? I was the first one. I knew it. Garrett Morgan and I tied lengthwise, but I had the tiebreaker with a bigger fish. So I knew I was going on stage and I was going to be the first one to talk to Steve. I didn't have kind of that, all right, those are the questions he's going to ask, or that's how to react. So, I mean, I was on the stage. I think I looked at Lance and I said, hey, hopefully I don't screw this up. And Steve called me up, and heck, I don't even remember what he said. And I answered questions and it was over. Just like that. I was like, man, damn it. I didn't even remember it. But anyways.
Well, that's cool though. Both of y'all had the opportunity to go up there and do that. And I just, like I was telling Bob earlier, so I'm jealous for you guys. Like I normally don't try to get jealous over nothing, but something like that, living vicariously through you guys and having that moment, I mean, y'all were up there against the top guys in the series, with Guillermo and Drew Gregory and all them guys that normally have a good finish, you know what I mean? Like you're always gonna count them in on the game. So but Lance, you've had some good events too. I mean, throughout the years, other than just Bass, some of the other series, and you've really made a name for yourself, as well in the kayaking side. And I wanted to ask you, because I know you got a bass boat now.
Mhm.
I mean, is there a point where you're kind of like, I might get out of the kayaking side and pursue the bass boat side, or is that just kind of one of them things? I just got this to kind of take the family out and enjoy
It's
that.
for the family. I mean, I grew up in bass boats. My parents have a marina, so I've done that my whole life before doing the kayaks, and it's easier for me to just travel around with the kayaks and stuff. Of course, you just have less expense, especially having a family and stuff. But I'll be fishing some more bass boat tournaments. There'll be more local stuff, and maybe hit a couple of BFLs or something just to try it out. But yeah, it's the boat I got's not really trail ready or worthy, I guess.
Yeah.
A little bit different kind of bass boat, but
You got a Bullet. Is it a Bullet or a Blazer? What was it when you got?
Allison.
That's right.
Mhm.
It's one of the fast ones.
Yeah.
What kind of speed you get out of that boat?
I've had it to 88.
Wow.
Ooh, man.
But
Good
I
Lord.
talked to a couple of previous owners of had that boat that found me on a couple of forums, and one guy said he's had 93 or
Dang.
94 or something like that, just different prop.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one guy said he had 93 with 200 horse. It's got a 250 on it now.
Is he fishing out of it going that fast, Lance, or is he just doing that just for speed?
Those are just for speed. So the way it's set up now is kind of run around, pull tube, fishing prop. Basically, it's got a 4-blade on it instead of a 3.
Okay.
But it's still, fast enough that on Lake the Ozarks you don't go very fast, very long.
Yeah. That's how Smith Mountain is here. Like, the only time you could run those speeds is first thing in the morning.
Mhm.
After that, it's so many waves and boat traffic. You couldn't do it. But I know they have a lot of those days where it's like Bullet. I see them on TikTok or YouTube where it's like Bullet and Blazers and Allisons and all that, where they take the troll motors off and they just run wide open all up and down the lake and crazy speeds. I'm like, holy moly. The Skeeter I had, I think I could get right at 70 with the tournament load and all that. But I got a Ranger aluminum boat now. I'm doing good if I hit like 52. And I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is all right. I'm getting older. I don't need to go that fast anymore. But big difference from between what 4.5 we're running in our kayaks, or I think you run Torpedoes a lot, or Newport. I can't remember which one you're running now, but what do you say you run a Newport, right? On the Bonafide?
Yeah, I've been running Torpedo for the past few years, but just got the NK300 on there now, and it's running between 6.3 and 6.5.
Yeah. That's good though. I mean, those motors like that make your boat feel like it wants to plane. Like, we run a Vibe Shearwater a couple years ago with the Torpedo 1103, and we put James's wife in it because she's a lot smaller than us, and man, seeing her take off in that thing, I was like, holy moly, that's like a bass boat. It almost needs to be trimmed.
Yeah. Go lean into the corners.
Yeah. It's scary when you got to turn them things like that, so that's, but no, getting back to it, guys, I'm really happy for you guys. Glad y'all had a good tournament. And so what's next? Let's go to you. What's next for you on the agenda? I know you're going with the Possum Kingdom and all that. I mean, what else tournaments you going to fish this year?
Yeah, so the Bassmaster Kayak Series for the rest of the year. My year did not start out well. I was excited to go to Lake Murray, but I went up there with the flu, and in 3 days I didn't catch a fish. I skunked. I had one bite, and I got off the water early and drove home. I shouldn't have fished at all because I was sick as a dog. But I'm heading to Possum Kingdom on Tuesday, and then Gunnersville in May, and the Susky on my birthday weekend. So you see me out in the Liverpool area in the evening, come by for some camaraderie and iced tea or beer of your choice. And then what's after that? Caddo?
Yeah.
And you need it's your best 3, right? And last year I started out really good at Gunnersville, and So, I mean, it was between Susky and PK, those were my 3 best finishes. But right now I'm kind of starting clean. I know that Murray isn't going to count it and catch a fish.
Yeah.
So fishing the remaining 4 to find my way back to get another taste of that, because it was amazing.
Yeah.
Stage or no stage, just to, like you said, fish against, the top 50 in AOI plus whatever comes out of the Bass Nation from each of the states. It was really cool. Met a lot of really neat people from across the country. We had guys in Arizona. I ran into Lance and Marty Hughes and Jamie Kuza and a bunch of other folks fishing down by the dam when we were practicing. Remember that, Lance, when I went by you?
Yeah.
Down by the dam, you were fishing that island. I mean, so it's really cool just the folks that you run into. And I mean, that's the best part of it for me. I would like to throw my hat in the Hobie series, but I think next year I'll try and do that, Bassmaster and Hobie.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Yeah. Bass and Hobie. Bass has gotten a lot better since Steve Owens,
Yeah.
has taken it, and it's just more vocal with things, when there's changes or when there's, opinions on stuff, like Steve is really good with that. And I think he does a phenomenal
communicating it, right? I mean, letting everybody know here's why we're changing, what we're changing, and what we're going to do about it. I mean, I think that's the best part about it. I think, when you guys came down for that Harris Chain event, you could tell Bassmaster was, because Steve didn't run that event. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, I can't remember the other guy that was running that. It was
I mean, it's night and day. I'm not to throw shade at people, but I mean, it's more fun now.
Yeah.
So, and I'm having a heck of a time with it. So
when we fished the Fork event, and I think it was Fork in Florida and all that, it was kind of the first year of their first season. I guess it'd be the second year. I'm sorry. And it felt like just a good old club tournament, like you just standing outside waiting to see if you made a check or not. And now Steve and him's done a really good job and really growing it, you know what I mean? And taking this thing by the reins. So, but Lance, let's talk about yours. It's what's your schedule looking like for this coming up year now?
The rest of the bass events, and then I fish our local Moayak Trail, which we just had it over the weekend. They pulled 105 or 104 people for that first event here in Lake the Ozarks.
Man, that's good.
But yeah, they run a pretty big local trail. I try to shoot for AOI on it, and so those are pretty much the only 2 that I run. If they'll run like an All-American in conjunction with a couple of them. I do have the All-American Classic coming up, maybe next month. Yeah, I think maybe in May.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. That's you. Like I say, we follow along. You've had some really good results. You've had pretty good seasons so far, starting too, right?
Well, for the championship, yeah,
yeah.
Murray, not so much. I never did get that one figured out. First time going over there, just I don't know, those clay bottom lakes.
Yeah,
kind of for a loop. I got to get more practice on them.
Yeah, that's the clay lakes like Bugs Island. That's how that is, and Smith is a rocky lake. You're going around, you look for rock bluffs, or you're fishing riprap, or you're fishing. It's so many houses there, Bugs Island, it's a southern lake, what I call a true southern lake. You can pattern fish there. But that's what you look for. A lot of times, especially when they're chasing gizzard shad, it always seems like you're looking for those mud bottoms, those red clay banks. I don't know if it's, and you can tell when you catch them there sometimes deep, because they'll be laying on the bottom and they'll come up and their belly's muddy, like it's brownish or reddish looking, but I don't know if they're chasing crawls and them things. I know gizzard shad, if you get for a live scope, you see a lot of gizzard shad up there around that stuff. So, but yeah, it can be tough, man. You got to find the right ones, and the little irregulars. I can't even get my words right. But anyways, you're looking for things that are different.
Like batteries.
Yeah, batteries. Just one of them hard ones to say. but yeah, those lakes can be tough. You just got to run a lot of water when it comes to that stuff. And in a kayak, it can be tough to find enough water to run that kind of pattern, But I did want to ask you guys, because y'all are from 2 different parts of the country. Bob, I'll ask you first, because you're from Florida. Y'all fish a lot of grass. Y'all fish, a lot of shallow water.
Yeah.
And what is it for you when you go to these other lakes? I mean, because it's hard to say, hey, I want to go find stuff that I'm used to fishing. So, I mean, when you go to these other lakes, what is it like for you to go in and say, hey, I'm just going to open mine, or am I going to go try to go find shallow stuff? Or, I mean, you fish deep at 10 killer here, but I mean, where do you learn that from? Or is it just from fishing so many different lakes over the country?
Well, as much as it pains me to admit this, I grew up in New York. So I grew up fishing deeper lakes till I joined the Army. But you know, like I'd fished Cayuga Lake, Seneca Lake, you know, the Hudson River with my dad. But you know, 3 years ago, when I fished a bunch of out-of-state stuff, I would just go find dirty water because that was the stuff I was comfortable with. It didn't matter if it was deep or shallow because that was, you know, stained water or muddy water. I'm kind of like the Jason Christie model, just power fish it or drag a worm through it because you know there's fish there. But you know, I guess probably over the last year or so, I've fell in love with the jerkbait. And, you know, now I want to find real clear water with points because I mean, I'll throw a jerk bait all year long if I can get away with it. I know you can't. I mean, it's ideal for certain water temperatures, but I mean, I guess it's changed a little bit over time, and it's hard to fish like that in Florida. You can find hydrilla lines on the Harris chain, on the Kissimmee chain, on headwaters, you know, pretty much anything down south, Kenansville, all that stuff where, no, not New York City, man, in Westchester County, but close enough to the city. But yeah, I mean, you can power fish in Florida with a jerk bait or, you know, a square bill or a crankbait if you want to. You don't have to just drag soft plastics or flip hyacinths and stuff like that. That stuff's still fun to do. Don't get me wrong. I like to punch, but that's a long-winded answer, and I'm not sure I answered your question. But I guess just the more traveling, the more you start to figure out kind of the pattern or the behavior of fish based on what they're doing in that particular body of water. And I'll tell you, Live Scope helped me even more. I called you and told you that, right? Yep. To see, you know, a regular 110 run, knowing where the fish were, and then to see where that ran, and then see where a 110+1 ran and where a 110+2 ran. And that's all I needed to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't tie a 110 on for the remainder of the turn. Everything I threw was 110+1. Even if I was in like 6 foot of water, I was still throwing the 110+1.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. Just the difference you learn, you know, in line size to get them jerk baits deeper, or like Lance did, talking about weighting them and getting them down there and kind of seeing how it's working and all. But Lance, for you, I mean, you know, you're Missouri, right? So I mean, a lot of lakes you fish out there are very similar to some of the lakes that you travel around and fish. But is there anything that, like you said, you talked about the mud bottoms? Is there anything that you still kind of like, man, I'm still learning at these different lakes, you know?
Mainly that. I mean, I kind of call them live scope lakes. It's I can tell when I get there that it's either going to be one or be dominated by somebody with live scope, unless they just have experience there. Because just the 2 events that we've had so far, I mean, I would have been happy to have live scope, being able to see, look, just get out in the middle of nowhere and be able to see there's a stump, there's a bush, there's something that you have no idea unless you ran over it. And you can save a lot of time just breaking a lake down with it. But as far as like what we have around here, we got a few lakes that kind of mimic a few other things, but we don't have a lot of grass lakes. I kind of get my grass fishing whenever I go up to La Crosse or I was Lake Fork, but haven't been at Lake Fork for a while.
Yeah.
That's Florida. Bring Josh and James with you. We'll go grass fishing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wish they would go back to Lake Fork, because if they go back to Lake Fork, I'd really like to fish that one. James, you know, he ended up third in that one. I think I was last in the money line. I can't remember. First day was great. Second day was sucked. You know, just one of them deals, how it goes. But I really hope they go back to Lake Fork, because I think that would be a fun event again. I know Steve was asking about some lakes and to keep in mind. I mean, for you guys, this is probably the last question I ask you guys. When it comes to 2025 season, what is one lake, Lance, that you hope that they put on there that you would really like to see them put on there?
I mean, I would like to fish a Florida event, which I know they're kind of looking at that. But I mean, I would like to go back to Fork. It's been a couple of years, and I know things change, especially when they had the water down so low for so long.
Yeah.
That stuff grows, and they're catching some monsters out of that lake right now. So, I mean, I'd like to go back down there and just find one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Bob? What is the lake you wish they'd probably put on there?
Harris Chain, Kissimmee Chain, probably Kissimmee Chain over Harris Chain. Harris Chain has never been overly kind to me.
Yeah.
But, I would, heck, even Seminole. Problem with Seminole in February is you never know what you're going to get. It could be 30 degrees up there and just as cold as it is or was on Lake Murray in Florida. And we all know Florida strain bass are awful with temperature changes and fronts. And that's really compounded at the end of our winter, right? I mean, we don't get much of a winter, but February, March, that transition can be really good or really crappy, just depending week to week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to get Florida on the schedule, but, you know, maybe it's kind of like what BASS did this year. Everyone's like, man, well, it's past the spawn, but it's going to be better because of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's finicky. I mean, you're going to have to spot to spot to spot. So it would be real difficult kayak fishing like that because you got to cover a lot of water on some of them lakes, but that'd be really cool to be back in Florida. And, you know, there's a lot of bucket list lakes. You know, Steve Owens put a post out and I put Lake of the Ozarks on that because I've always wanted to fish Lake of the Ozarks. I'd love to go to Fork. There's a ton of lakes in Texas I'd like to go to. And I mean, there's lakes everywhere. I wouldn't mind going back to Santee Cooper. I fished that when I was in the Army on Fort Bragg. Jordan Lake is another decent lake. You know, Smith Mountain Lake, you and I were talking about that. Never been there. It sounds like a really cool place.
Yeah,
So,
they need to get y'all up
there. I wish that I went to Wisconsin last year because it sounds like that would have been a lot like the kind of fishing we have down here. But that was the only stop I didn't do last year.
Yeah. Now I did enjoy going north. We went and fished Wolf and Fox for the Hobie event, and what was Winnipesaukee was a bass event, I think, too, when we went up there. I can't remember if that was bass or if that was Hobie. I can't remember off the top of my. I think that was a Hobie event.
Yeah, you guys cracked. I remember that video when you guys were. That boat ramp was a freaking disaster.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I mean, man, they were fun events, and I hope they go up north like that, you know, and fish a couple of those. And I don't know. We're kind of pulled back this year and plan on maybe fishing, just hand picking a few events here and there. I don't think we'll travel as hard as we did that couple of years with it, just because of kids, family, and all that stuff. Trying to do vacations, and you know, Lance, Bob, it can be tough, man, being on the road all the time, and family events, and you know, you're trying to schedule everything around that. It can be tough to make all that fit. So, but I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. We've been here for almost an hour now, just talking about y'all's events, but. Before we let you guys go, and I'm not asking y'all to thank us by no means, but for your other sponsors and family and all that, Lance, is people you like to thank that's helped you along the way here, buddy?
Yeah, definitely my wife a lot because she basically just handles everything back at the house and puts up with me doing this. She supports me too, but
well said.
Yeah, if it's a big chore for her to take on while I'm gone for basically about a week and keep everything together. But yeah, of course, I mean, the sponsors, they make it real possible to travel around everywhere, cover a lot of expenses, keep the best gear in hand. I mean, just making it where you can just perform at the top level.
Yeah.
And so Eco Fishing, that's our local kayak shop here that they got me hooked up with a Newport, and if anything, I mean, they were Jonathan Dominguez. He was down there doing some media, filming people on the lake during practice, and he was helping guys that had no part of our team or anything, just leaks in boats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they do some pretty awesome stuff.
Well, that's cool. That's cool that they were able to. They're very involved in their community. Like I've noticed, like talking with them and having tournaments, and this and that. Like they're very involved, and I like seeing that out of kayak shops. You know, like it's
Yep.
I know it's tough for a lot to do it, but it's really cool to see them be able to do it and be such a. We get a lot of guys that's on the Feel Free team and all that stuff that are from Eco, and it's pretty cool talking with a lot of them guys and seeing what all they do for you guys out there as well. So, but Lance, I do appreciate you coming on with us, man. It was great. I'm gonna let you go, and then we'll finish up with Bob. But it really good having you on the team. Congratulations, and man, we look forward to seeing how the rest of your year goes. And good luck to you this year, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy.
Lance, hopefully we run into each other on PK. Maybe we'll get a similar result if that happens.
Yeah, it's pick out a good spot.
All right, guys. All right, thank you, Lance.
Yeah. See you.
See you, buddy. Real quick with you, Bob, before we let you go, man. Anybody like I say, I ask you to thank us, but anybody particular that's really helped you out and let you do what you do right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lance hit the nail on the head. God, my wife, she keeps the wheels on the bus and lets me do this. And then after that, it's you and James. And I'm not blowing smoke. I mean, I drove up to see y'all for a reason with a brand new boat and had never been in the water. I mean, I don't have sponsors. I've got companies that have done stuff for me in the past that I'm grateful for. Dakota Lithium, 44 Tackle are at the top of that list. But, nobody does what you and James do. And, yeah, if you need evidence of that, I bought a boat from a store in Georgia, Dugout Bait and Tackle, and then I drove up to Josh and James before the championship, and y'all took out that 1.5-inch hole saw and put a bunch of holes in a brand new Hobie and scared me to death. and the darn thing performed flawlessly on 10 Killer, and it looked great. I got a lot of compliments. People still ask me questions about the way the cables are run, about the battery box and all that stuff. So, and I've showed Stormy, kind of James's handiwork with that battery box. I sent him pictures of it. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it from a marketing perspective, but from companies I thank, a lot of rambling, one objective, hands down, 44 Tackle. And Dakota Lithium, and I can't dismiss the things that they've done for me. It's been some time now, but that's it. That's the rest is funded by yours truly and insatiable work ethic. Thanks in large part to some stuff I got exposed to in the Army and turned that into a career. So,
well, that's awesome, man. That's all. I've always enjoyed having good conversations with you about things you did in the past with your military experience, and I could just tell in your confidence. You know what I mean? Just from the things you've done, you know what I mean? It's built you to what you are now. And
I appreciate that, brother. But it's just being around good people. I don't know how often something like this will ever happen for me. I just want to be a good, two things. I want people to think I'm competitive, right? That people will take me seriously, not like that guy doesn't know what he's doing. But I want to be, an ambassador for this. I want to be a guy that people aren't afraid to come up to and ask questions. I appreciate that, Craig. But seriously, if you're not sure what to throw, come on by. If I have an extra one, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Because we're all traveling a long way, and it's hard for all of us. Marty Hughes posted that thing from Trey, and that hit me pretty hard. That was a really cool story, and I'm grateful that the two of them shared that in terms of his experience, Trey's experience on 10 Killer. And that's what this is all about. Camaraderie, fellowship, and just being good to each other. I'm not going to do this to make a living. I do this to forget about what I do for a living.
Absolutely. That's
chasing little dumb green fish, and it's fun to do it with forward-facing sonar for all you people that hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on down to Lena Lakes, Roy. We'll go throw a chatterbait, man. I'll put you on them.
Now, and that was a good way you worded that. You don't do this to make a living. You do this to get away from how you make a living. I think that's how you worded it. But anyways, that was a really good saying. I think I like that because I think so many people are so caught up into trying to turn this into a professional career
Right.
that I would think it's probably maybe 4 or 5 out of the Hobie and bass
Yeah.
that actually are able to do this as a complete career, and
I mean, they're really good at what they do, and you can tell. Like when I see them at a ramp, the way they carry themselves and how efficient they are in the water. It's fun to watch those gals and guys.
yeah.
But and there's stuff I learn from them, and I hope every now and then maybe I say something that they learn from too.
Absolutely. No, it is really cool to watch people at that whole next level. I've had the opportunity to ride along with pros on the classics, and especially on the final days, and just to see how guys, their thinking process and their process of what their next move is going to be. You know what I mean? They're always trying to be about 3 steps ahead.
Heck yeah.
And like I say, when you get out there with the guys that kayak that do this stuff for a living, just to see how they practice, or you know what I mean? Like it's just pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it's like a different. I don't know what the word is, but it's different, right? I mean, those people, the sacrifices that they make to live in their cars and pre-fish for weeks, and I can't do that. I've got my oldest child is 26, and my youngest she'll be 10 in October. So
yeah,
I don't want to do that. I'm doing this for fun, and I'm not knocking people that do. I mean, it's a great sport, and it's really cool that there are several national trails that allow both ends of that spectrum to compete. And I just want to fall somewhere in the middle and people to go, yeah, he knows what he's doing. I do have to thank one more guy. I screwed up not doing this when I was on the stage, and that's my dad. If it wasn't for him, I would have never done this. I mean, I treasure the chances that we get to go out and fish together. So I'm glad that he's kind of reignited that fire.
Yeah.
6-7 years ago, and it's fun to get out with him too every chance I get, even if he is still fishing with ducket rods. Hint, hint. Come on, Dad. Oh man, Josh, thanks. Chris, thank y'all for having me. Thank James in West Virginia. Thank the Academy. Thank you all. Good night and good riddance. You can kick me out now.
I do appreciate it, Bob. I appreciate our friendship and working together as a team.
Brother.
It's always fun, and we're gonna schedule one of them trips. We're gonna come down there with you and
please do.
Florida. So, but other than that, buddy, I'll talk to you later, Bob, and we'll keep in touch through the week, buddy.
Yeah, man. See y'all later. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on, bud. Bye. All right, guys. If y'all have not had the chance to go follow Lance and Bob Briskie on Facebook and Instagram, make sure you go check them out. They always got some good content. Bob's always sharing, his build or like here recently, he's still kind of just living it up from the classic. I mean, that was a big accomplishment. He's got some good pictures that he's got taken, and Lance has caught some good fish and had some good events over the years. And they're always just up there. They're fluent with the social media and sharing, and they do really good with it. So make sure you go check them guys out on Facebook and Instagram and wherever else they may be. But now, real quick before we let you go, just kind of talking about a little bit of our Castaway Tournament Trail. Chris talked about it earlier, summed it up in one word: it sucked, and that's what it was. It was a tough one. We had a sucky event at Bugs Island, but I will say Leesville Lake was better than Bugs Island.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was going to be like that. I'll be quite honest with you. But I always have high hopes when I go to Leesville, because Leesville is one of those lakes it's really great for us. And I say great for us, I'm talking like 10, 12 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, that's great for us. It's not a Smith Mountain Lake fishing nighttime where you got a good chance of catching big bags, that or early spring when they're on beds or any of that stuff, but there's guys that just know that lake and know how that lake functions. And what I mean by that is Leesville Lake fluctuates feet during the day. I mean, what did it look like, Chris? It dropped a foot, 2 feet or something like that when we were there?
Yeah, but it was up 10 feet than what it normally is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's bushes in the water, there's trees in the water that you normally don't fish. And I said, mounted by the guardian angel lights on balance stern mounts. Love those mounts. Oh, thank you. Oh yeah. Oh, I see. I see it now. I read it wrong at first, but yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. But it was just a grind, and I mean, the guys that caught him, it sounded like he caught him first thing in the morning, and then it was kind of slowed up for him through the day. For us, I think we caught a 14, right at 14 inches in the morning, live scoping. There was other ones down there. I was hoping I could maybe just get a limit out real quick with that, and that didn't happen. We go in the back of a creek. That same creek we caught that 14, caught one on a black and blue jig. And then I was like, oh man, this is going to happen. It's a jig bite. And then that didn't happen. And we come back to that creek that afternoon and went on the other side of that dock and caught another 14-incher. And then that was it. That was done.
You caught a striper.
I did catch a striper on a crankbait on a point. And
it was actually smaller than one of the biggest fish we had.
Yeah, it is. It was a small striper. But I thought it was a big bass at first. He was just hooked funny, I was like, oh man, that was on a crankbait, and I was like, this is gonna be good. But I don't know. Lee's was tough. We got another one. Was it April 20th? I think it is, or 20. I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's. I think we got like 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. Let me pull it up here real quick. I know it's on a Saturday, the 20th. I think it's April 20th.
Yeah, 20th. It's Smith Mountain.
That one's setting up. I think they're going to be on bids. That's just. I mean, I don't know if we'll be able to win nothing off of that. I don't know, but
next Saturday.
Yeah. So hopefully,
not just coming, but the one after.
Yeah. So hopefully we figure something out there and can make a good points day out of it. I don't know. It always seems like when we catch them good, everybody else catches them good. We just should have caught them better, but.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited about the night tournaments. That's my biggest thing. So I love the night tournaments. We seem to normally crack them pretty good then. So we'll see how it goes this year. But other than that, guys, I really appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. This was a special show. It's on a Sunday. Like I say, we're trying to do them on Thursdays. It does suck because we don't have Chris with us on Thursdays because his work schedule. But that's just how it goes. And for me on Sundays is a little tough because this is my last day, and then I head out of town on the to go do some work and all that. So Thursdays always seem to work out better. But we'll be doing some on end shows on Sundays too. Just depends on their guest. That's going to be a lot of it. If we can get the guest on through the week, and if we can, Sunday might work better. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I say, click the link below after the show, especially on YouTube and on our iTunes and all the what other platforms that our podcast goes on. We'll have a link to save yourself 15% on your waterland purchase. So other than that, guys, we'll talk to you later, guys, and hope to see you on the water.
See you.